Coming in today, we have our inaugural MMA Tee Company fighter predictions for the UFC 253 main card, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Today we have Craig Willingham Jr. and Gordon Wigington breaking down the fights. First fight of the main card is a featherweight fight. It's going to be Hakeem Dawodu versus Zubaira Tukhugov. I'm going to throw it to you, Craig, first. Get your opinion, then we'll have Gordon get his as well.
All right, when it comes to that fight, I got Zubaira winning, mainly due to experience and because of speed. If you watch Hakeem's fight, he goes at a slower speed when he's fighting. He's primarily a striker, but his hands aren't that good. In a couple of his last UFC fights, 2 out of like 4 fights, he's got hurt in the fight. And I think because of that, Zubaira is going to take advantage of him.
And Gordon, what are your thoughts?
I think the opposite. I got Hakeem. This is me and Hakeem, right? King of the cage guy.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be champ there. Yeah, I got Hakeem there. I feel like, while I agree with Craig that his opponent does have to have the speed advantage, I think the way that Hakeem can explode through combinations with his 1-2s and 2-3s, things of that nature. He's not a huge combo puncher, but when he does commit to the 2-punch combos or 3-punch combos, they land crisp. And I feel like this power is going to be able to carry him a little bit in this matchup. So I feel like it's a pretty solid stage for him. His first fight of the main card, so I feel like he's going to rise to the occasion and make some noise for himself.
Awesome. So we're 1-1 right now. We got one for Hakeem and one for Zubair. Next fight on this UFC main card is a women's bantamweight fight. We got Ketlin Vieira fighting Sarge Eubanks, and Sarge, just fought. I think it was 2 weeks ago. She's back on the main card again. So we'll start with you, Gordon, with this one.
I was torn with this one only because Sarge I picked against her when she fought Avia, when she just beat Julia Avia, but she had a really slow start. She had a bad round 1 in that fight. Ketlin Vieira is really good, though. She's really, really good. She's dangerous. So if I want to go against Sarge again with this one, I'm going to pick Ketlin, but I expect it to be a close fight. I'm sure it's going to be a close unanimous decision or a split decision for Ketlin.
All right, Craig, what do you got?
I'm going to go ahead and split with him again. I got Sajar, and the reason why I got Sajar is because it is. One, she hasn't been doing MMA for all that long, and I think that has something to do with things when you see those slow starts and things of that nature. 2, she's a former world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, meaning she's come from another sport, but she's seen success in another sport, and a lot of times that can translate over. 3, I'm putting Cesaro because if you look at when she last fought, she just fought recently. Her opponent hasn't fought since 2019, and going with COVID and things of that nature, I think that's going to play a effect. The other girl, Vieira, she hasn't fought with the no crowd, and I think it's a lot to adjust to. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Sajar.
All right, so we got 1-1 on that fight, too. We got one for Vieira, one for Sajar. Moving on to the next fight on the main card, we got a flyweight fight. We got Kai France and Brandon Royval. So we'll go back to you, Craig, for this one. What's your pick on that fight?
On this fight, I'm going to start off with my man Brandon. In his last fight, he fought Tim Elliott. For the people who don't know, Tim Elliott won the Ultimate Fighter, and he also fought Demetrius Johnson for the flyweight title. Now, he lost, but he put up a good effort, and I think he had Demetrius Johnson hurt, or not hurt, but in a submission early on in that fight, so he was in trouble. Brandon Royval came out and dominated him. And he actually got the submission, and he wasn't happy over his performance. So off of that alone, I saw Kai France. He comes from a good team, but I don't think he's gonna. I think Brandon Royval's gonna come in and make it dirty, and I think he's gonna get him up out of there. So that's my prediction.
All right, Gordy, what do you got?
Man, I actually had the same exact thought pattern that Craig had about Brandon, and then I sat back and thought a little bit about it some more. And every time I pick against Kai France, it makes me look stupid. So I want to pick Kai this time. I feel like that strength that Brandon has and that making it muddy and making it a grittier fight, I think Kai catches him in between and he lands something flush. I think Kai's going to finish him. So I got Kai.
All right, we're split again, 1-1. Moving on to the co-main event, a light heavyweight fight. One I'm really excited for. We got Dom Reyes fighting Jan Blachowicz. Gordon, we'll go with you first. What's your thoughts on this fight?
I want to pick Jan so bad. I really, really do. I feel like he's been in the UFC for a while. He works really hard. He's got crazy amounts of power. The way he knocked out Luke Rockhold was pretty rough. I also feel like the way he starts fights doesn't benefit him again in this matchup. And I feel like Dominic Reyes is just more well-rounded than he is. And what Jan does best is come forward and create openings for himself and puts pressure. But Dominic Reyes, what his best skill is his footwork and his angles. His step back less, his pullback uppercuts, all the things that he does going backwards and laterally are really, really good. And that's going to work really well for him in this fight. So I got to pick Reyes, even though I would like to see Jan win. But I think Reyes gets the job done, and he's going to be in new.
All right, and Craig, who do you got on this one?
In this fight, it's a very intriguing fight. The one thing that I think is intriguing in this fight is the fact that they actually have the same skills. If you look at Reyes when he knocked out Corey Anderson, he caught him off of a counter, same as he caught Luke Rockhold. Not Reyes, Blachowicz. He caught him when he fought Luke Rockhold. He caught him with a counter, same as when he caught Corey Anderson in the second fight. And if you look at Reyes when he catches people, he's very good with his counters and his speed. The problem for Blachowicz is that when you look at the pace of each of his fights, he tends to let his opponent control the pace. I think in this fight, when going against Dominic Reyes is the faster guy. He's the taller guy. He's the longer guy. I just think that you can't let him control the pace. Especially a guy who just fought a 5-round fight. I don't think you can let him control the pace. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Dominic Reyes this time.
Gotcha. So we got 2 for Reyes in that co-main event to see him and new. And then we got the main event. Somebody's got to go. We got Israel Adesanya, 19-0, fighting Paulo Costa, 13-0. So Craig, I'll have you do the honors here for this main event.
So if you would have asked me this yesterday, which is funny because I have wrote down who I thought was going to win. If you would have asked me this yesterday, I would have said Paulo Costa, right? But check this out. Paulo Costa, the reason why I'm not going to pick him for this victory is because Israel is supposed to win. So I believe when they're supposed to win, you should go with the favorite. In this fight, Israel, what he needs to do is he needs to stick his jab. If he can stick his jab, if he can be vigilant, if he can make sure that he's the first in attacking, I think he can pull off with the victory. He cannot let Paulo back him up. One thing that people don't realize with Paulo Costa is Paulo Costa has been dropped twice in the UFC. The first time was Uriah Hall. He dropped him with an overhand when Paulo Costa was coming in, and Paulo was actually hurt. The second time was a trick play with Yoel Romero. Yoel pointed and then caught him with a looping punch. I guess you could say overhand or a hook, however you want to say it. So he can get hurt. The one thing about Paulo is the fact that after he gets hurt, though, he seems to not be phased. He seems to be able to push through it. But I think Israel can replicate exactly what Uriah did in the first fight when Uriah fought him. I think he keep that jab going. And then in the later rounds, I think Israel can start to push the pace. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go with Israel on this fight. He just needs to make sure he's not leaning back as well, because Israel tends to lean back when people are attacking him, and that might be an issue too. So, but I'm gonna go with Israel for it.
All right, so we got 1 for Adesanya. Then Gordon, what do you got?
When this fight got announced, I said Israel's going to beat him up pretty bad, and I still feel that way to this day. So here's my thing with Paulo Costa. I feel like his fighting style works really, really well for him because he's a brute. He's kind of a meathead. He's going to come forward, and he's going to get in your face, and he's going to push you. I don't think that style works with a striker that's as technical, but still as unorthodox as Israel Adesanya is. He is textbook good striker, textbook good, but he can hit you from different angles, from different planes, different releases, things like that. And he fights well going forwards, backwards, and laterally. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, like Craig was talking about, everyone paints Costa as this destroyer. He was losing the Uriah Hall fight. He was getting his face jabbed off for the first round, and he low blowed Uriah Hall like 3 times in a fight or something like that. I think he got stopped twice for low blows. I think, and I also felt like he didn't win the Romero fight when they fought. So I feel like I feel like Costa gets himself into a lot of trouble with the way that he fights. He's very aggressive offensively, but he's very lackadaisical defensively. But with all that said, though, the things he does well, he can crack. The guy hits hard. He hits really hard. Like, I don't know how him and Yoel Romero did finish each other. They were cracking each other with really big shots. But again, like Craig said, he's also been dropped. Uriah Hall dropped him, and Uriah Hall's not a power striker. He's going to hit you a lot. He's a volume guy, but if he sits down on his punches, he'll drop you. He dropped Costa. To his credit, he's very durable. He seems to be able to shake off getting rocked really well, but he's been dropped before. And in the Romero fight, he got dropped a few times. He, like I said, he does a really good job scrambling, getting back to his feet, getting back to neutral positions, and still getting back in your face and pressing you and making sure you're against the fence. But he takes a lot of unnecessary damage. Like, if you look at his face after that Romero fight, he didn't look like a winner to me. He looked like somebody that blocked a lot of punches with his face. Here's the thing that sells it for me, though. I just believe that Izzy's fight IQ and experience is significantly higher than Costa's. It's significantly higher. Izzy's had the luxury of, not luxury, but he has the experience in his corner where he has over 80 kickboxing fights or something like that. And he's fought a lot of different style guys. He's fought brutes. He's fought technicians. He's fought smaller guys. You see what the fight with Kelvin, those guys went to war. And that's because of the way that Izzy decides to fight sometimes. But I also feel like if you watch the Robert Whittaker fight, Izzy went to the area where Robert Whittaker couldn't get comfortable, and he stayed close to him and stayed in the pocket because Whittaker was expecting an outside fight. He stayed in the pocket, and he hurt him a lot because Whittaker wasn't expecting to be there. In this fight, Costa's going to be expecting to close the distance and make it a pocket and close fight where he can let those bombs go. I don't think Izzy's going to let him do that. I think Izzy's going to be tagging him, hitting him with a lot of knees, a lot of leg kicks, and a lot of pot shots like jabs, 1s and 2s, some 3s, things of that nature. I think it's going to be a close fight, but I think Izzy wins 3 rounds to 2 or 4 rounds to 1. I don't know if anyone gets finished, but I think Izzy beats him pretty handily, I think.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Craig.
Some things to know, because the way he made it sound, it makes it seem like it's going to be an easy fight. Here's the problem, right? So 2 things that I think is worth knowing. Watch the Yoel fight versus Israel Adesanya, right? That fight, a lot of people looked at it as it being a boring fight, but it tells a lot, right? Because what happened in that fight is early on, Yoel caught Izzy with an overhand.
Huge overhand.
Izzy instantly knew, I'm not trying to engage. I'm going to win this a different way. One thing that we got to realize is Paulo Costa is very, 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 very capable of landing that same overhand, a hook or anything. Secondly, in the Robert Whittaker fight, Israel was in trouble the whole fight. People just didn't realize it. Israel is leaning back with his hands down. Whittaker was tagging him. He just wasn't putting them out, and then some of them he was missing. The fact of the matter is if Paulo Costa lands a third of what Robert Whittaker was able to land, it could be game over. So it really is a 50-50 fight. It's a 50-50 fight because one thing about knowing more in a fight is that you know what you can't do, and that can limit you. Paulo Costa, somebody who's green, a little bit more green, I would say, in that area. He don't know no better, and that could play to his advantage. He could put so much pressure on Izzy that it can make Izzy's life a little bit bad. And I think we know that that's possible because Izzy fought Gastelum. I don't think Paulo Costa is as fast as Gastelum. I don't think he's as methodical with his approach as Gastelum, but he got that power, and I think that power can make a dangerous night for anybody.
I agree with you. I actually agree with you about the Whittaker fight as well, but that's why I feel as though because Izzy won the way he won, he's not going to make those same clerical errors and fighting in a dangerous range against Paulo because it's way more dangerous for him. That's not Robert Whittaker standing across from you.
That's he doesn't take those,
huge power puncher.
If you got to remember this, if he doesn't take those, he took a lot of risks when he fought Whittaker. That's why he was able to get him up out of there. The fact of the matter is, it's a different fight. It's Paulo Costa. If you don't take, you have to take some risk because you have to be offensive. If he does, if he's not offensive, if he doesn't take some type of risk, Paulo Costa is going to walk him down. Paulo Costa is going to be able to put more hands on him. The longer Israel's in the cage with him, the more he's going to get hit. We just got to figure out can Izzy take any damage from him, because Paulo Costa is going to hit him.
I think he's going to hit him for sure. I definitely believe that. And I feel like he's going to steal a round or two. But I also feel like Izzy does really well adjusting. When I watched back the Gastelum fight, Gastelum had him in a lot of rough situations going backwards and pressing him to his elite side as a southpaw. So when Kelvin was going that way, he was putting Izzy in a lot of bad spots. I think that those are the areas, I think learning from that fight. And I also feel like people don't give Izzy enough credit for how much better he's getting fight to fight.
Each fight, yeah.
Every single fight, he's developed a new skill or a new thing that he showcases to make the fight easier in his favor. So
it may seem that way though.
Right.
Here's the thing with Izzy, right? So people that's what people say. They say people don't give Izzy enough credit. No. Izzy is a world-class fighter. He's a world champion. But Izzy is also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Izzy also had over 10 fights before he came to the UFC while he was fighting for glory. Izzy is a veteran. That's
Right.
really he's not. People
Exactly.
say, "Oh, he's making all these changes." No, he has this in his repertoire already. He's not learning these things. He already knows it. And then when it comes to the fight, he shines it up a little bit more because he's a world champion. He knows how to pull it out and when to pull it out. And I think that, and ultimately, I think that's the reason why he's going to win because he knows what to do, when to do at the right time. And that's the reason why I did pick him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like people don't credit his experience enough, and they just think he's just some striker that came in and is learning to wrestle on the fly. I completely agree. He's not just now learning takedown defense. He's not just now learning submission defense or submission offense for that matter. He's just getting a chance to implement it now. And I feel like as those things happen in each fight, he's just going to keep developing and polishing his skills more. But I just feel like Paulo right now might be too green. He might be too headstrong. He doesn't seem to know when to let off the gas and when to do things a certain way. So I think it's a difference between fighting and competing when it's like a championship fight. Sometimes you got to just fight and go get it, and sometimes you got to compete and be a little bit more intelligent. So I feel like that's still going to be the difference. I feel like it gets Izzy 3 rounds to 2 or 4 rounds to 1.
Yeah, Craig, you got a prediction on how it's going to end? You got a decision or you got to finish?
I'm gonna say Izzy gets him up out of there. Actually, I'm gonna go late 4th round. He gets him up out of there, and the reason why is because I think Paulo Costa is the type of person where you're gonna have to get him out of there. I mean, if you think that you're gonna get a decision over Paulo Costa, you're sadly mistaken. I think Izzy has to get him out of there, and I think Izzy comes from behind. I think Izzy gets hurt early on. I think he has to pull something out the hat, and I think he gets him late. But I don't think this fight is going to decision, and I think Paulo has made it pretty clear that that's not what he's looking for. So I think Izzy's gonna have to finish him. And then for Reyes, I didn't pick that one. I don't think Reyes is gonna be able to get Juan out of there. I think it's gonna be a decision. I think he's gonna stay away from him. I think he has to be. He said it on the on one of those shows. He has to be careful because he even said that he knows that this is a harder matchup. He has to be careful because of the what's it called? The counters of Blachowicz. So I don't think he's going to be able to go in there and pressure the way he wants to. He's going to have to use that movement. So I think that's going to be a decision.
Got you. Okay, great. Cool, fellas. It was a pleasure, speaking with both of you, getting to pick your brains a little bit about these fights. I'm looking forward to watching them this weekend. Enjoy the gym. Have a nice training. We'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Later, man.
All right, thanks.
You have a good one.
You too.